a way that was infused with excitement, with spirituality, with simcha. And tonight we have the special honor of having a friend of mine, Rabbi Amos Azizoff, who is the shliach in Mishkafayim, not just for English speakers, right? And a star speaker and teacher, sought after. I know because I do some teaching in the seminary, and something I like to ask the students is, who's your favorite teacher? And Rabbi Azizoff's name is comes up over and over again as an inspiration. Rabbi Azizoff came all the way from England as a far travel story. I don't know if he's going to share it tonight. I'm not. I hope he does, but I'm not. That's how long we got. And I couldn't think of somebody better to introduce the transformation that the Baal Shem Tov's derech can bring in our lives than Rabbi Azizoff. I read it.
Finish my eulogy. I'm gonna use this with your permission because I don't know what it is with Efrat, but last time they invited me to come here, I ended up in hospital, and this time they invited me to come here, I ended up with tonsillitis. Baruch Hashem, I'm on my antibiotics, and it's been a few days. So I said this time, whatever happens, I'm coming. So first of all, say l'chaim to Shlomi and to his dear Rebbetzin. It's a schus to be here in Efrat. I always like going around seeing other Chabad houses, other shluchim, and having the schus to be a shliach. I know what it's all about, and so I give them a bracha. Mit Hashem, you should go mechayel lechav, strength to strength. You should have your own place in Mit Hashem. You shouldn't have to use halls and schools. It's a nice way to start, but you need your own place in Mit Hashem, and the Amos will give you that. Ezrat Hashem, Berachos. I also am a bit scared to start because I have in my one of my bosses, Rabbi Goldstein, who's you said you want to know my life story. He lives not far by. He lives here in the Neve Daniel, so you could bring him to Farbrengen. But he's the head of Midrash Amit. I had the schus to teach there for 7 years. This is my 7th year. Can't believe it. If I get free after the 7th year, I come out and schmidt sabbatical, yeah. And also, I want to say thank you to my dear Yedid, Chaim Zev, who knows what my driving is like at night. And he very kindly drove me here from Shkunat HaMishkafayim. You know, every Chabad house has your guy that we couldn't be without. Chaim Zev is part of our lives. Unbelievable. Maybe should give you Atzlach. It's a Chassidish Farbrengen. Rabbi Goldstein is here. The last Chassidish Farbrengen that I spoke at, I was in, where were we? Mitzpeh Ramon. We were in Mitzpeh Ramon for Shabbat, and it was Friday night, and all the girls were having a shtickle Farbrengen without the alcohol. And we said that because it's a Chassidish Farbrengen, the power of a Chassidish Farbrengen is very, very strong. This ma'amad, this event, has strengths which no other events ever have. And we mentioned that, who knows, it could be on Motzei Shabbos, we're going to put on our phones, and we're going to hear that the hostages have been released. And sure enough, that Motzei Shabbos, 4 hostages were released. It was a bit crazy. But in Mit Hashem, we should not even leave this room, but in the middle of Farbrengen, we'll hear that our hostages are free, and all our chayalim are home safe in Mit Hashem. So I'm saying l'chaim on tea. I just want to mention 3 names as well. That again, Chassidish Farbrengen. So we want to give a bracha to 3 names in Mit Hashem. That by next Chai Elul, please God, these people should have found their matches, their shidduchim. So one of them is Eliana Shena Bas Liva Sarah. Another one is Shiri Basya Asli Basara, and Gabriel Shalom Ben Basara. 3 names. Okay, so Chayel. For me, Chayel has been miraculous because I began Chayel last Thursday night with a Farbrengen in my shul. On Shabbos, I had another Farbrengen for Chayel in our Chabad house. And tonight, I'm still Farbrengen Chayel. So this is like, a very long Yom Tov this time. But as Shlomo said, Chayel is the birthday for 2 great giants, 2 people who really have shaped my life. Gathering, yeah. Farbrengen is a Hasidic gathering, and they say that what Hasidic Farbrengen can achieve, even Malach Michael cannot achieve. One of the jokes is because Malach Michael doesn't say L'chaim. Hasidic Farbrengen, you say L'chaim. Anyway, so Chayel. So we know Chayel is the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. It's also the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, and there was a gap between them. We also know that the Alter Rebbe's parents could not have children. And for a number of months, they were trying, they couldn't have children, and they ended up going to the Baal Shem Tov for a bracha. And the Baal Shem Tov on Chai Elul said to them that at this time next year, Ka'ik Chaya, right? Next year, you'll have a child. And sure enough, they had their child, Shner Zalman. And the Baal Shem Tov was actually he snipped the Alter Rebbe's hair as Upshanish. And what's very interesting is the Baal Shem Tov was born in the year Nachat. That's what they say. And they say that the Baal Shem Tov gives Nachas to this world and the higher worlds. And the Alter Rebbe was born in the year Kahas. If anyone's seen Chabad Svarim, you might have seen the sign Kahas on the Svarim, Kuf Hey Taf. And the Alter Rebbe was born in the year Kahas. It's very interesting. So I don't know where we want to take this from Farbrengen, but I think everyone's like eager to hear my story a bit. But I don't like speaking about myself. So maybe we'll Farbrengen, and if it comes out, it comes out. So how did the Baal Shem Tov shape my life? How did the Alter Rebbe shape my life? So I'll tell you a few things. First of all, there's a very famous story which I like to tell about the Baal Shem Tov, which is that once upon a time, somebody knocked at the Baal Shem Tov's door, and it was one of the peddlers, one of the people selling things, fixing things. And the guy said to the Baal Shem Tov, do you have anything in your house to fix? And the Baal Shem Tov said, no, thank you very much for the offer, and he closed the door. And when he came back to his Talmid, to his students, he said, I can't believe what just happened. He said, this guy was sent by Hashem. And if I would have actually thought into this, I would have realized that this is not him asking if I have anything to fix. Everybody has something to fix. If we look deep inside of us, each and every one of us has something to fix. And that was really what the Baal Shem Tov gave to his students. He said, we all have Malataken, we all have what to fix. Oh. And so that's like a nice story that I like to tell about Shem Tov. I think Jewish Jewry today, Judaism today is we are mechuyav, we are liable to say thank you to the Baal Shem Tov. Because today, the joy that we have, the simcha that we have, whatever the good you sing, Yiddishkeit has got this vibe, this love, this warmkeit, this warmth, is only down to this big soul, the Baal Shem Tov. So we're all grateful to him. So let's say the Chaim Festival to the Baal Shem Tov. But now let's move down a few. We know the Baal Shem Tov had a student called the Maggid of Mezrich, who took over the Baal Shem Tov. And from the Maggid came, obviously, the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe was a student of the Maggid. And the Alter Rebbe took on this new thing. The Alter Rebbe they used to call him the Litvische Chassid. Why the Litvische Chassid? Because the Alter Rebbe, when he brought Chabad Chassidus to the world, if anyone's learned Chabad Chassidus, you might have noticed that it's very different to other Chassidus. It's very different to, I've been around a bit, so I've seen other Chassidus too. And it's very different. It's about seichel, it's about your brain. You have to actually think rather than hearing a nice voice, a nice Torah from a Chassidish Rebbe. This is something which you actually have to really work out. It's not a bedtime storybook. The Tanya is not something that you have next to your bed and you read it and you fall asleep with it. It's something that needs work. Your brain has to work. And the Alter Rebbe brought this world of new Chassidus to the world called Chassidus Chabad. And he taught us that everything in life goes through this process of Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. We have to think. Chokhmah is Koachma, the strength of what? Bina, taking that on the next level, taking it apart, understanding. And then Das is internalizing. Somebody once told me, explain to me what's Das. So I heard a nice word, what's Das? It's like this. If you've been in college, you might have heard a lecturer lecturing for 2 hours how smoking is bad. Ever heard one of these guys? Smoking kills, smoking is bad, smoking. You go outside during the break, and what do you see? You see Shmerel, who lectured for 2 hours, he's smoking, right? He's outside and he's smoking. And you think to yourself, 1 second, you just gave me a lecture for 2 hours about smoking, and you're smoking? Like, how does it work? He's a guy who hasn't internalized, he hasn't got that, he's got all the knowledge in the world, and he's able to explain it and to take it apart. But the Das, he hasn't internalized this thing. So I was a child that grew up in England, and here we found some family over here, Baruch Hashem. And I grew up in what's called in England a United Synagogue home. United Synagogue in America is like Young Israel. But for some reason, my soul that the Amos gave me always had this pull to Chassidus. And at the age of 6, my grandfather passed away. It's on my mother's side. It's not the Persian connection. And my grandfather was a light in my life. He was a Jew that came from Egypt. He was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh, somebody that really came to England with 6 kids. He was eager not to work on Shabbos. Uncle Moshe wasn't around them. There's some ain't going to work on Saturday. But that was my grandfather's motto in life. For many, many years, he didn't have a job, and he had 6 kids, and they didn't have money. And in Egypt, they were very wealthy. But in Birmingham, where they moved to they were sent to a refugee camp in Leeds in England, and then to Birmingham. And it was very, very difficult for him. And my grandfather once had a meeting with like an interview for a job. And in the room was sitting a priest. A priest and my grandfather and the person interviewing my grandfather. And the guy said to my grandfather, Saturday's a busy day. My grandfather said, no, I can't work on Saturday. And he got up to leave. And as he got up to leave, the priest said to his son, who was interviewing my grandfather, said, look, this guy is so loyal to his religion. He doesn't want the job because of Saturday. Take him. He'll make up the hours. He'll be a good worker. And they took my grandfather. And my grandfather worked on Fridays and Sundays and all the other hours that he could make up. And the story goes, I heard this numerous times from different people. So that's why I'm starting to believe that it's true. I heard this from also a rabbi that was in Birmingham that knew my grandfather. So the story goes that my grandfather, in the end, Baruch Hashem, this we know, he made a lot of money. And he bought himself a Rolls Royce to drive to shul to show people that even with wealth, you still need to serve Hashem. And my grandfather, in the end, had a knock on his door one day, sitting in his office. And who knocked on his door? This guy that gave him the job. Many years back, he was in tears in my grandfather's office. And he said, I've gone bankrupt, I don't have a job, and I need a job. And my grandfather employed this guy, like the Galgal, how Hashem runs the world. So that was my grandfather. He passed away about 6 years old, when I was 6 years old. And I had lots of friends that were Chabad. And I started getting exposed to Chabad. I remember I drove the Shliach in Birmingham, crazy for a yarmulke with Tivas Hashem on it. And I still had it till a few years ago. And whenever I started, my friends at Chabad, and I'm running around. And my room used to be the shrine of pictures of the Rebbe. And they used to say about I only have one brother. So that everyone that used to come to our house, there's 2 rooms opposite each other. My room is Gan Eden, and my brother's room is Gehenna. We want to talk about what he had on his wall. Anyway, so I grew up, whenever this I grew up, and my mitzvah, I drove my father mad. I want to rent a tefillin, and I want a hat, and I want this, and I want that, and I had to have 770 tefillin bags. And my mother made me a 770 cake. My cake for my bar mitzvah was in the shape of 770. And whatever. I grew up in, a very modern Orthodox home. I was always a bit of the Meshugana. And when I got to the age of 16, I was time to choose a yeshiva. And my father, I got into Gated Yeshiva. Gated Yeshiva is not the most Hasidic yeshiva. It's a very Lippish yeshiva. And my father, like, to him, getting into Gates at Yeshiva when you're 16 is like your son's going to Oxford. So he was like, you can always go to Chabad. Chabad will always take you. And but you should go to Gateshead. So I remember I went to this Gateshead Yeshiva and I rock up there with these 770 twin bags, and I was a bit out of place, to say the least. And for the first year in Gateshead, I was like, a bit of a stranger. And Rabbi Sudak in London used to send me Tanyas to give out to Bachram, a missionary in the yeshiva. And in the end, the mashgiach of the yeshiva got hold of me and he said to me, listen, he said, you've got to make up your mind. What's going on? Are you Chabad? Are you this? Are you that? This place is not Chabad yeshiva, decide what you want. And I remember I used to go around on Shabbos afternoon. There was different bedrooms that had different Sudash Lishits, different, Shalashulas in different rooms. One room was Satma, one room was Ger, Bobov, and all these different, Kreisen. And for some unknown reason, don't ask me why, I was a young boy, I got hooked onto Bobov. And I started going, maybe they could filter fish was good, I don't know what it was. But I started going to this Bobov Shalashulas, and it was the year that the Twin Towers was the terrorist attack on the Twin Towers. It was 2002, yeah? 2001. 2001. No, it was Tosh and Samach base the first time I went to New York, so that's why I said 2002. It was 2001. So 2001, I had a flight booked to New York for the first time in my life, and it was 2 days before the Twin Towers came down. After the Twin Towers. So my parents were like, I don't know if you should go, maybe you should cancel the flight. I was like, listen, I finally got the opportunity to go to New York. I want to go. Sorry?
People were saying slichot. That's why some religious people would say, because it was before Rosh Hashanah and they were going to slichot.
Yeah. So I ended up going. And I remember this is like me. I was going to Borough Park. I wasn't even going to Crown Heights. I was going to Borough Park and I was going to Bob for Yom Tov. But the funny thing was, my neshama somehow said to me, I have to see 770. So I told my friends, I said, listen, I don't know how to get to Crown Heights. I was asking people in the streets of Borough Park, how do I get to 45th Street? So the first thing they said to me was Shalom Aleichem, right? Because it's 45, 46, 47. You don't know that, you've never been there. And so I remember I went to 770 for the first time in my life. And it didn't really speak to me. I was like, it was wild. I didn't understand what was going on over there. And it was weird. But I'd seen 770. So I went back to Borough Park. And I had Yom Tov in Borough Park. And I went back to Gateshead. And I remember I decided I wanted to go to Bobov Yeshiva. This is already the next stage. I'm moving on. So I go to this Bobov Yeshiva in Stamford Hill. And the first Shabbos, I remember they had a big table for the old boys. I was like an alter bucher. I was 18. And I'm sitting on this table and I served myself fish. And there was a jug on the table. And I poured myself a drink. And it tasted like salt and sugar. And I don't know what it was. It was the yolk. It was the sauce they put on like a filter fish. That's how Sephardi I was. I ended up in this yeshiva. Anyway, let's fast forward a little bit. So I go to this Bobov Yeshiva and I didn't know Yiddish, but slowly I start learning Yiddish. And I'm speaking Yiddish, and I'm writing Yiddish, and I'm learning in Yiddish. And here's this little Persian boy, a shadi boy, and he's busy speaking Yiddish. My grandparents were like in awe. They're like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, but they went with me in this journey. And I still had my Rashi and I still had my connections to the Rebbe. But I was in this new frame of mind. I was in this Bobov world. And I started growing payas and a long jacket. And I had all the Hasidic Shagab, and to move, let's go forward a bit. It comes to Shidduchim. What happens in the Hasidic world when you go on Shidduchim? So you're rated. If you're a full-on Hasidic guy, so you get your full-on Hasidic girl. If you come from a Sephardi home, and you've got Chabad connections, and you're this, and you're that, and you're the others, you're already minus 5,000 points. You start already on the down. So I was getting all these suggestions. It was very, this one and that one. My parents were like, no, you're not marrying any of these. And it came a point where I was like so fed up with Shidduchim that I said to my parents, I'm going to Israel for Hanukkah. This was in 2004. So I said to my parents, I'm running away. I've had enough of shidduchim. I need a break. So I said, okay. So I book a ticket. I go to Israel for Hanukkah. I'm staying in Yerushalayim. And I remember the call on Friday morning. I got a call from my cousin who lives in England. She's Israeli. And she says to me, Amos, I've got the shidduch for you. I said to Essie, I'm coming to Israel. I don't want shidduchim. She said to me, no. This girl comes from a Sephardi home. She's Moroccan. She has amazing parents, big Rav in Beit Shemesh. So I said to Essie, how many fingers does she got? I'm being serious. And she said to me, no, I promise you, everything is fixed. The woman is a great girl. She has a great family. The siblings are normal. Everything is normal. I said, so where's the catch? No catch. I said, listen, I don't know. She said, you got to meet this girl. I said, okay. So Motzei Shabbos, I met this girl. We spoke for about an hour. Sunday night, I met this girl. We spoke for about an hour. Monday, I met her parents. We spoke for about 5 minutes. They asked me if I'm taking her back to England. Yeah, she spoke English. She taught herself English. She was an English teacher. This is now Hashem runs as well. And Tuesday, I was in her parents' house for the war. We're engaged. Anyway, so here we are engaged. Obviously, we're Hasidim, so we don't speak from the engagement to the wedding. That's just how this crazy world works. And that's how we did it. I got engaged on Tuesday night. I had a flight. The very interesting thing about this story, how we can connect it to the Rebbe. So I had to change my flight. I had to change my ticket because I was planning to go back. So the place where I changed my ticket was Ben Yehuda Street in Yerushalayim. And there was a Beis Mashiach in the Chabad house over there. I go in, and I wanted to write a pan. I wanted to write a Binyan Nefesh, a letter to the Rebbe, because my soul, I told you from a young age, was connected to the Rebbe. And I'm in my whole blob of gear. This guy thinks I'm nuts. And I'm sitting there and I write a pan to the Rebbe. And I put it into one of the volumes of Igris Kodesh, which is the letters of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I walked out. I said, I've done my bit, I've gone. And then, I don't know what happened, but I had this awakening. I said, if I've already written a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I've heard about people that open up this book, and they see miracles, let's try it. What can we lose? I'm getting engaged tonight. Let's see what happens. So I go back in, and I open up the volume where my letter was. And the Rebbe is writing to somebody. I wrote to the Rebbe that my parents have to speak to the girl's parents, and we want to close the vote tonight. And the Rebbe's letter said, answering about the wedding of your child coming up, should be and they should build a home. And the Rebbe goes through his letter that the age of 5 is for this, and the age of 6 is for this. And the Rebbe writes the completion of Olam Hazeh of 2 souls is when they're 20 years old. And me and my wife, to be, were both 20 years old. So I nearly fainted. I was like, that was it, And I called up a rabbi in London who I was very close to, Mendel Gordon. And I said to him, listen, on this page, you have to open it up. You have to read this letter for me because I'm freaking out over here. And he said, yeah, Rebbe's bracha, that's it. So I was engaged. And for 4 months, till Purim, we didn't speak. I was speaking to the parents. I was speaking here, there. To the girl, I didn't speak a word. Basically, when you get married, it's like the 6th time you met your wife, right? Pretty strange, huh? I knew her name. I had it written down. So we got married. It was Purim. We got married Tanis Esther, Erev Tanis Esther. And our Shevet Brachos was Purim. Maybe it was a big joke. And Baruch Hashem, we're 20 years later. And a lot of things have been going on in those years. We lived in England for 3 years. Then we moved to Israel for 3 years. Then went to England for 7 years. And during those 7 years, I slowly made my journey back to Chassidus, to Chabad. And it was funny. My wife was like, I kept telling my wife, I want to buy the Chabad kapata, the long black coat Chabad wear on Shabbos. She says, Amos, no more levushim. You've done all the gobs in the book. You're not getting any more gobs. And then we went to the Rebbe together, and I put on my kapata. And what's very interesting in this journey, and how the Alter Rebbe comes in, is that I remember we were in England for 7 years, and we were trying very hard to become shluchim in England. And it didn't work. We were trying and trying. Nothing was happening. And my daughter became 12 years old. In England, that's the cup break if you're going to keep your kids in high school in England and you're going to stay there for the rest of your life, or you're going to come back to this holy land of Israel. And I said to my wife one night, I said, listen, I've decided we're going to go back to Israel. She says to me, really? We've got good jobs, we've got a house, we've got cars. What do you want to go? I'm like, she's Israeli and she didn't want to go back to Israel. I'm like, I don't know, we have to go back to Israel. And to cut the long story short, we go back to Israel. We wrote to our boss that we're resigning. The next night, we had the whole team of the staff were in our house. We'll give you a house in Hendon. We'll give you a house here. No, we're going to Israel. And they couldn't believe it. But we moved back to Israel. The first year I was in Israel, I was helping out Rabbi Farah. He's a shliach in Bet Shemesh, very chashuv shliach. And I was giving shiurim in his Chabad house. And after a year in Rabbi Farah's Chabad house, Rabbi Weiner, who's the head shliach in Bet Shemesh, approached me. And he said, maybe you and your wife want to go to this new neighborhood called Mishkafayim. So I said to my wife, you want to go? We've got an offer to go on shlichus. She said, no, we had such a hard time in England. I'm not interested. 11:30 at night, late at night, Rabbi Farah knocks on our door. If anyone knows Rabbi Farah, this is very Rabbi Farah. Right? Randomly, knock on my front door. I open the door. He says, can I come in? I say, no, come in. So he comes in. He says, where's your wife? I said, I don't know. She's gone to sleep. No, I have to speak to your wife. So I call my wife. And he says, listen, he says, we've been on shlichus now for 45 years. He says, you don't understand. It's an amazing thing. The Rebbe's brachas, it's phenomenal. He says, I really think we should go to Mishkafayim. We should take this opportunity. He said, tomorrow morning, I'm flying to the oil. And I want to take a letter from you guys. And we'll see what happens. So I said, listen, if I write it, it's biased. You go write the letter. So my wife sat and she wrote a pen to the Rebbe. And Rabbi Farah went to the oil. And what should I tell you? The rest is history. We've been in Baruch Hashem for 6 years. And we built a beautiful Chabad house, Baruch Hashem, with a lot of help. But how does the Alter Rebbe come into this? So Rabbi Goldstein is sitting over here, the head of Midrash Amit. And this is really the point that changed my life. And I hope that you'll be able to take something from this. Okay, no, it's good. Baruch Hashem. Here in the front, that's good there. Oh. Okay. So I came to Midrash Amit. This is now my 7th year. So 7 years ago, when I moved to Israel, my job was working in Midrash Amit. And the first year for Yutes Kislev, I said to myself, you know what? I'll go into the seminary with 2 bags of food and with some drink, and we'll explain what's Yutes Kislev. We'll explain a little bit about Chassidus, what Yutes Kislev is. And I remember meeting Rabbi Goldstein on the street, walking into the seminary, and he said to me, Good Yom Tov. I said, Good Yom Tov. He said, I was at Tzoma last night. Remember? He spoke to me about the Tzoma. Tzoma was this thing every year. They do this massive event in Binyanei Omam. And he told me, I was there. Yom Tov, whatever, no problem, speak to the girls. And I spoke to the girls about Yutes Kislev. And then in Midrash Amit, we have 3 semesters. Every semester, we change the subjects. So the second semester, my first year in Midrash Amit, Rabbi Goldstein said, what do you want to teach? So I don't know why. I said to him, Tanya. I said, Tanya, no problem. Teach Tanya. And then I came home to my wife, and I said, Mommy, I don't believe what I just did. She said, what did you do? I said, I told Rabbi Goldstein that I'm going to be teaching Tanya. I said, me teaching Tanya? I don't know where to start. So she said, what's the problem? Learn. So I went to Chabad and I bought all the different color books that are on the shelf that have to do with Tanya. And I started learning. And Rabbi Josh Gordon on Shalom's teachings, his videos helped me a lot. And I had to, if you want to teach something, you got to learn it, right? Otherwise the shit doesn't sound so good. And I started taking to the task of learning Tanya. And I've got to tell you that I owe a lot to the Alter Rebbe, because the Alter Rebbe changed my life. That's really when my life started becoming into shape. Tanya is not a book. It's not a sefer. Tanya is a necessity. Tanya is a must. If anyone hasn't started learning Tanya yet, can I give them a task to come and speak to you?
David, because he's sharing Tanya every morning.
You're David. Oh, Charles. See, I made a similar mistake. Chaim Zev, I tell him how old you are. He had his 61st birthday on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz this year. And big shot, I said to him, you know what, Chaim Zev, I see you learn Rambam. Till now, you're learning one parak Rambam a day. Up the bar, 3 prakim a day. And then what did I say? I said to him, I'll have a chavrusa with you. I'll learn with you every day, 3 prakim a day. And boy, he has not let me go since. We've been learning since Rosh Chodesh Tammuz every single day, 3 prakim a day. Some days we write to each other, we are going to do it ourselves because I'm teaching now and it doesn't really work. But we learn 3 prakim of Rambam every single day and it's in his merit. So there you go. You see, he's going to be doing a ton of shit. Chaim, long shall it last. Anyway, so you may ask me, why did Tanya change me? What is it about Tanya that changed me? So the truth is that till I learned Tanya, I didn't realize what was going on with me, right? Sometimes you feel down, sometimes you feel high, sometimes you feel you failed. I have a good Rosh Hashanah for fail. You know what Rosh Hashanah is an acronym. My acronym for fail is, I don't want to guess. Tell you. First attempt in learning. That's my acronym for fail. First attempt in learning. Why is it my acronym for fail? Because every failure is supposed to pick us up, right? There's no such thing you failed. If you fail, so you try again. And you get on the track and you start again. And really, this is the Alter Rebbe. This is what Tanya does. Tanya changes lives. But Tanya, the way I learned it, right? Because I had to heart of it, because I had to actually put some effort into learning it. Maybe that's why I took such a personal liking to Tanya. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm now teaching in Chabad once a week. Rabbi Shlomo was speaking about in Aria. So I walked into Aria last week. So I don't know why they put as a title of my lesson, they put, how do they call it? No, something, it sounded aggressive. It sounded like a guide to happiness or something. I don't know what it sounded like. It sounded like some hippie thing. So I said to the girls, what do you think I'm teaching you? You're all here, and this is the title. They're all throwing out different things. And then I said, I'm teaching you Tanya. Should have seen their faces, right? Tanya. And then at the end of the lesson, they were like, oh, it's a bit different, right? Because I think that Tanya, when you come to it, maybe if you've been brainwashed with it all your life, it's not so geschmack. But when you open up the Tanya and start learning Tanya for yourself, and maybe have a chavrusa with it with somebody else, or learn it as a book for yourself, it's mamash a life changer. It's something very, very special. I want to share with you one of the things that I like the most. I'm the most fan of Perek Chavav, the Perek Lamed Beis. If anyone's familiar with the Tanya, those are the chapters that really deal with happiness, with emotions. The Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Chavav something very interesting. Everyone's familiar, maybe you're familiar if you've learned it before, with the concept of the 2 wrestlers, right? Right at the beginning of Perek Chavav, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the mitavkim. So the question is, why does the Alter Rebbe use the word mitavkim? Why does he go for wrestlers, right? And one thing I saw was like this. We know we're in a war right now. Hashem should give our soldiers the strength and success of Hashem. Chaim. Should all be safe. But there's 2 types of wars. There's one war where the enemy is in a different country and you're in a different country, and that's a war, right? There's a war taking place. You don't see the enemy, but there's a war going on. Another type of war, another type of battle, is when 2 people are very close by. They're fighting each other. The Alter Rebbe chooses a very interesting word, Perek Chavav. He chooses the word misavkim, which is literally wrestling. Now, let me ask you a question. When you watch wrestling, if you never knew that they were fighting, what could it look like? Hugging. Yeah, hugging, right? It looks like they're hugging each other. If you didn't know they're fighting, right? And this is the message the Alter Rebbe is trying to tell us. Because what's going on here in chapter 26, what's the wrestling? The wrestling is between our neshamas, between our neshama Liki and our neshama. And therefore, it's a very close fight because these 2 things are very close together. And really, they're friends. But they're always constantly in a battle. They're always constantly fighting each other. And our job as Jews is to always be prepared for war. But never to think that you failed. Fail, remember, is your first attempt in learning. Fail is where he picks himself up, and that's a siddhis. A person knows that there's no such thing as fail. I'm always on the run. I'm always trying. I'm always doing my best. I'll try again. So this is what Chai El means to me. Chai El to me is really a birthday, but a birthday of my life, a new life. A birthday of a life of a chassid, of a shliach. A birthday of somebody who really has seen the Rebbe Mamish. I could Farbrengen about stories how I've seen the Rebbe clearly in my life as a child growing up. The way I look at it is that I had to go through Bobbed to be able to learn a sicha, because most of the Rebbe's sichas are in Yiddish. A lot of the sichas are in Yiddish. And today, Baruch Hashem, because I have Yiddish, I'm able to learn the sichas, I'm able to Farbrengen with chassidim, with different types of people. And I take I never look back on any stage of life and say, oh, it's a shame I wasted some years here, some years there. Every life's thing that I came into contact with in life, for me was a bracha. For me is a bracha. For me is an opportunity. For me is being part of the growing into being able to be the Rebbe Shliach. I want to just share with you some stories of our shlichus. Some people might ask, why do you need a shliach in a place where there's religious Jews? I remember when we came looking for a house in Mishkafayim, everyone that saw us were like, Chabad's coming to Mishkafayim? Why are you coming to Mishkafayim? We're all religious, right? I think now, 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line, people realize, even in Mishkafayim, why people need a shliach. I'll tell you some of the things. Mishkafayim is a very interesting area. Anyone familiar with Mishkafayim? Mishkafayim is a neighborhood in Beit Shemesh with 400 families. It's a very mixed neighborhood. We have religious, we have non-religious, we have 3 guys that wear a shtreimel on Shabbos. It's very interesting. Anglos, Israelis, we have it all. But Baruch Hashem, there's peace. Everybody gets on with everybody. It's not one of these neighborhoods where people are fighting or people are trying to push their level of Yiddishkeit anyway. And our shlichus really, Baruch Hashem, we have a Moadel Noar, we have shiurim during the week, minyanim, we have activities for shiurim for men and for women. But really, I want to tell you a few stories. One story is Corona. We all remember Corona. So back in the day, Corona, when it first broke out, and everybody were right in the beginning, Pesach time. So we had to think very quickly because all the shuls were closing down. And I thought a bit out of the box. And I thought to myself, listen, all the shuls are closing down, but we are blessed in Mishkafayim. The reason it's called Mishkafayim is because the houses are in the shape of a lens, a glass lens. There's 2 lenses and a road in the middle. So where my house is, this is our balcony, and we're opposite like a whole circle of houses. So I took the initiative straight away to write on all the WhatsApp groups that we're going to begin balcony minyanim. Everybody should stay in their houses, dangerous times, but we're going to have minyanim for the balconies. And I had a voice back in the day. And I was the chazan for the whole period of Corona. And I davened from my balcony. It was quite an experience. We had a Sefer Torah on somebody's balcony. He was about Korah, and people were getting aliyahs from all around. And it was very interesting times. And I remember Pesach, we were giving people the opportunity to have a Seder plate, right? Because there were people that for the first time in their lives were making Pesach. And it was really after that people started seeing, maybe we do Chabad in this neighborhood, right? And they bought us our first parochas, our shul and Chabad. The whole neighborhood got together and they paid for our parochas in our Chabad house. It was very nice of them as a gratitude of Corona. Another thing was more recent thing, unfortunately, on the 7th of October. So Simchas Torah, we didn't really know what was going on yet. But on Monday Simchas Torah, I heard straight away that my neighbor had a son who was at the Nova Festival, and they couldn't contact him. They were trying to get in touch with him, they couldn't get hold of him. And the search began. began on Motzi Simchas Torah, and I was in contact with the father. The father lives in Mishkan Fayim, the parents are divorced. And I was in contact with the father every day. And it was getting closer to Shabbos, and they were still on the search for his son. And I told him, listen, if you're still, stuck for Shabbos, you come to us for Shabbos. And I remember Thursday, I must have crashed. Thursday night, I crashed. And I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, only to see that the Levaya had been. I missed the Levaya. It's Thursday night. This boy, you might have heard this name. His name is Yehuda Becha. The very famous clip of Elokai Neshama that's been going around the whole year, of this boy singing in a car. So this boy was this man's son. And the first day of Shiva, on Friday morning, when they were sitting Shiva, so this guy rocks up to the Shiva house. Earrings, tattoos, the works, his torn clothes. And he says to the father, I want to tell you a story. In the middle of the whole Shiva, he shuts everybody up. And he says, I want to tell you a story. He says, your son, I was feeling very depressed, and your son sent me a clip. And he sent me a recording to brighten my life up, to make me smile. And he showed us the clip, and it was a kind of shana. That was the first time this clip that's gone so viral came out live. And the father could not believe it. He was looking at this video of his son singing a kind of shana. And he told the whole story, and it just lit me up, and it brought me life. That was Yehuda. And since then, this is like a song that's been going around. But more than that, I have a custom that I picked up from Rabbi Levi Paris, alav shalom. He was in Mashpia in London, had a big impact in my life. And Rabbi Levi Paris would not leave his house without a pair of tefillin in his hand. And Rabbi Levi Paris' English was terrible. He didn't have the language, but he used to see a Jew on the street, very much like the old Chassid Mendel for the fuss. And he'd see him yell, "You Jewish? Me Jewish? Come, tefillin, yeah, let's go." And he'd strap him up. And when Levi Paris, Al passed away, so one thing I took on as a Kabbalah was that I would go around with a pair of tefillin wherever I go. But since Yehuda Becha passed away, the father saw that that's what I do. I go with tefillin everywhere. So he gave me his son's tefillin. He gave me Yehuda's tefillin. And I've had the privilege of putting Yehuda's tefillin on so many people during this year. 2 very amazing stories I'll share with you. One of them, I go on the Poland trip every year with Amit. And the first time I went to Poland with Amit, Auschwitz, every time Auschwitz kills me, but the first time was insane. And I came out feeling so low. I said, I have to find a Jew. I need to put tefillin on somebody. I need to do something positive. And sure enough, there was a bus right next to our bus. It was when the Israelis were still going. And I put tefillin on these guys in Auschwitz. And we said Shema Yisrael together. And since then, every time I go, I always try to find a Jew in Auschwitz to put tefillin on. So this year, when we were there, I had Yehuda Becha's tefillin with me. And it was very difficult to find a Jew because there's no trips anymore. The Israeli groups are not going anymore. But I was determined to find a Yid in Auschwitz. So the girls, as we were leaving Auschwitz, they got together and they started singing V'hisha Amda. Shwekis V'hisha Amda. And they're singing and they're singing and they're singing. We're standing at the gates, leaving Auschwitz. And I see this guy standing with his phone, elderly gentleman, and he's videoing the girls. So I went up to him and I said to him, where are you from? So he says to me, I'm from Scotland. So I said to him, you're not from Scotland, you've got an American accent. So he said, I'm from California. So I live in Scotland. So I said, oh, okay. I said, are you Jewish? He said, well, funny enough, 6 years ago, I did a DNA test. And I always knew that I had this Jewish feel from my mom. And he said, both my mom and my dad were Jewish. And he found that out 6 years ago. So I asked the Dayan if it's good enough to put tefillin on a guy to have a DNA test. He said, for tefillin, it's okay. For marriage, maybe not. This guy was 71 years old. And I put tefillin on this guy on the tracks, leaving Auschwitz. And they were Yehuda Becha's tefillin.
It was his first time?
First time putting tefillin on. It was a crazy moment. And they were dancing, the girls were dancing, and making them like a bar mitzvah, and it was insane. It was crazy, crazy time. That was one story. Another story, just to see how Hashem runs such an amazing world. I was going, we have in our Chabad house, we have tablecloths on the table that people come in, they make fun. They say it looks like a matzah. But it has like shirim and all types of interesting psukim on them. And I was missing two of these tablecloths. And the only place you can buy these tablecloths is in Nachalat Binyamin in Tel Aviv. So I took my kids on a day trip to Tel Aviv. And I took the tefillin with me. And we get to the train station. As we get to the train station, the train drives off. So in Beit Shemesh, you have to wait a whole hour now for the next train. So I didn't know what to do. The kids were getting, agitated. They wanted to go already. So I said, let's go on the bus. So we go for the bus. We waited 20 minutes for a bus. No bus. So I said, okay, let's go and eat. What do you do if you're a Jewish father, right? There's no bus. There's no train. We go eat. So I go to eat with the kids. And I said, you know what? We might as well. Let's go back to the train. So we go back to the train. And we get on the train. And we go upstairs. And as we go upstairs on the train, I see there's 9 kids, 9 boys. They're all on the way to the beach. So I said to one of them, you put tefillin on today? No, I put tefillin on today. Put tefillin on him, put tefillin on him, put tefillin on him. And we get to number 9, and he says, no. I said, why no? Look, 8 of them put tefillin on. Why don't you want to put tefillin on? So he says to me, because I've never done it before. I said, what? You've never done it before? That for a Chabadnik is like a bull seeing red, So I said to him, God, let's go. We'll do your bar mitzvah. Anyway, it comes out that he's from Beit Shemesh. And we put tefillin on him. And we start dancing on the train and making him a whole bar mitzvah. And guess what? A few weeks pass, and I took his number and I took his contacts, whatever. A few weeks pass, and yet again, I take my kids to eat. And my kids say to, and this guy walks into the restaurant, and I said to him, do you want to put tefillin? And he says, no, I come for a business meeting. And my kids say to me, Daddy, that's the guy from the train. He's the one that put it on the train the first time. And I remember his name. So I called his name. He's like, how do you know my name? I said, you don't remember? Look, I showed him the picture. We put tefillin on the train. So he did it again. So sometimes, we see these occurrences. We see something, you missed the train, you missed the bus, you see this. Hashem runs his world. He knows exactly where to put you, at what time, and what to do. I'll just end with the last story. Being a shliach in Mishkafayim, we don't have stores in Mishkafayim. There's no shops, there's no makolet, there's no nothing. And on Friday, I like to go with time. I like to go find Yidden that haven't put tefillin on, give out Shabbos candles. So I was looking for a place that nobody has reached yet. And there's a makolet that's open in Beit Shemesh till 1 hour before Shabbos. And there's never anybody outside that makolet, whatever. So I asked Rabbi Vayna, said to him, listen, you're the head shliach, it's your area. I said to him, would you mind if me and my son come on Friday and we open up a little tefillin booth and we put tefillin on people? He said, sure, no problem. So we go to the store. I'm talking 3 years ago now. And we're standing with our tefillin booth outside the store. And the guy working behind the counter in the store, in the makolet, I went to buy, the blue chips, the blue salt and vinegar chips, right? They just come back into thing. So I go to pay for these chips at the thing, and the guy starts talking to me in English. So I said to him, why are you talking to me in English? He said, only people that speak English buy these chips, right? So I said to him, okay. So we start speaking. I said, what's your name? He says, my name is Jonathan. Okay. I said, Jonathan, did you have an opportunity to put tefillin on today? He says to me, no, it's not for me. I said to him, why is it not for you? We start talking. Comes out that Jonathan is not only from England, but he's actually from the neighborhood that I grew up in. So I said to him, Jonathan, listen, I don't know many people. I've never bumped in my place where I come from. It's called Bournemouth. It's a very small area in England. And there's not many people who bump into that from Bournemouth. I said to him, if Hashem has made us meet each other, you got to put tefillin on. So he says to me, no, Rabbi, no. I said to Jonathan, I said, okay, yalla, let's do it. So I put tefillin on it. We said Shema. And the next week, when we came to the store, he says, Rabbi, I've done it already. And he showed me his tefillin. He brought his tefillin to the store. He didn't already put tefillin on. Anyway, let's fast forward this story. He calls me up. He wants to come and see me. And he already doesn't look like the Jonathan that I met a few years before. And he says to me, Rabbi, I've got to talk to you. I said, come, pleasure. Comes to the Chabad house. And he says to me, I want to tell you something. He says, 3 years ago when I met you, He says, you don't know what I was going through. I used to sleep in the shop. I was on drugs. My life was upside down. And he says to me, we put tefillin on, and I started thinking a little bit about life. And I kept Shabbos for one Shabbos, and slowly thing. And today, Baruch Hashem, he's studying in a university in Israel, a college in Israel. And he has a girlfriend, Jewish girlfriend, and he really looks totally different. And who knows, right? So these small things that we think that are very small things, and you think sometimes, what did I do? We can have such a huge impact. And we just have to, as the Rebbe's video connects very nicely, we just have to be the poor. We just have to be the players. We have to do our bit, and the Amos does his bit. And we'll close. This boy, Yonathan's mother, called me, and she said to me, I want to tell you something. She said, you don't know this part of the story, but I was the PA for Rabbi Pharaoh. I was a personal assistant for Rabbi Pharaoh. And she said, the first time I saw you, I davened to Hashem that you'll meet my son. And she said, you know why? I said, you'll definitely kick off with my son. I said, who's your son? She said, my son's Yonathan. This is this boy. So Baruch Hashem, listen, l'chaim, we should all, with Hashem, take koiches, chai Elul. We know it's chai is the Elul. It's the giving of life to the month of Elul. We have a few days left. From chai Elul, we have 12 days. Now, it's already going down. Every day corresponding to a month of the year. So with Hashem, the Amos should give us all chayas, give us all health, should give us bonei chayim, whatever we need, we should have. And with Hashem, the thing that we're all waiting for, which is Mashiach, we should have very, very speedily. And it should end all these tzaras and all these negative things and bring the real new light to the world with the coming of Mashiach, the base of English. L'chaim.